Welcome to the starting out series of podcasts where we identify relevant topics for students of IBS Gurgaon, which they are currently engaged in. And since now our students are in the summer internship process, we have given them out a document called Understanding the Business of the Company. I'd like to now introduce Professor Shariq, who is our area coordinator for strategy. So, Professor Shariq, can you please explain why does a student who is undergoing summer internship, why does he or she needs to understand the business in which the company is operating?
Okay, thank you for the question, Professor Aziz. So let me kind of build it up bottom up. The students are given certain tasks to do in their SIP, and they have studied certain concepts in their first year, and they need to bring both of this together. So the way they can do it holistically is first understand the business that the company works in and what are the various components of that understanding, which then ties it into the task that they're doing. So they kind of move from the big picture to specifically what they're doing, which allows them to understand how what they are doing contributes to the company and what does the company kind of actually do.
Great, that's a very good introduction to this particular topic. So, Professor Shariq, how should a student go about doing this analysis?
Okay, so that's another interesting one because what they need to be doing here is understand sequentially how they're going to move. So what they can first do is understand the company and what business it is in. What do they actually do? Once they are able to do that, they can then look at the industry that the company operates in. Looking at the industry, they can then look at the company itself and the product and services that they provide. And as you have kind of pointed out in this particular sheet, it allows them to look at each one of them so they are able to collect the appropriate data over a period of time.
Also, there is some indication to the macro environment. How does the macro environment come into this picture?
Right. So as our students have kind of must have studied definitely is that the to analyze the macro environment, you need to do the pestle analysis, and they all are aware of pestle. We just want them to understand the link. So in pestle, they should be looking at what are the specific factors, because now that they have identified the company and its business, they need to understand that within pestle, what are the factors that can impact the company's business.
For example, you can give one of the elements of the pestle.
So if we look at the insurance industry, for example, they could be looking at government regulations. What are the regulatory requirements that are coming in that could impact the business? They could be looking at the consumer dynamics. They could be looking at what is happening with demographics to understand how it can impact the insurance industry. So these are the elements that they can be looking at.
So one technology element and it's also one of your favorites, is the artificial intelligence space.
Right.
How do you think, do you think artificial intelligence can impact businesses?
I think that's a good point. I think students should definitely focus on the impact of AI, which comes under technology, the T of pestle. How is AI going to impact the industry in the next 5 or 10 years? And I think if they go do an in-depth study, that will really help them even in their placement interviews to demonstrate how are they looking at this particular change in technological and how it's going to impact the industry.
I think that's a very important point to raise, because when I've looked at pestle analysis in the past with students, they are not particularly clear how each of the elements impact the company under study. So I think this is an important thing you raise. So next, let's get into the industry part.
Right. And I think you would be kind of a better person to explain industry and what they should be looking at industry and how can they actually do the industry analysis.
Well, the popular method of analyzing industry is the Porter's five forces model, and it has 5 elements. I'll not go into the exact elements and describe it in detail because that will require some certain amount of time. What the Porter's five forces model does net in the end is tells us and the companies who are already operating in it how attractive that industry is. How attractive means that is there a potential to make more profits over a longer period of time. If it is not attractive, then the company who's already there has a choice to decide whether it wants to stay in the industry or do something different to increase its profitability. The ones who are planning to enter that industry, they'll have to think through how attractive is that industry for them to enter in the short term or the long term.
Okay. So I guess that analysis is very important for students to understand an application of the framework, and then utilize that framework to develop an understanding of the industry. So in kind of some of the other elements that are there in this.
Other elements is now, once we've looked at the macro, the pestle, we have looked at the industry, I think now we have to specifically, which is of more relevance to the students, is the business of the company.
Right.
How do we approach analysis of the business of the company? Do we look at it from the product and the STP point of view? What do you think?
Okay, so I think they should be looking at, once they have done this, they can now get into, one is competitive analysis, so that can be another interesting area that they can look at. Once they have identified the company and the product and the industry, they can then do a detailed competitive analysis, which allows them to understand what are the challenges that their company is facing and how they can overcome them. The second thing that they can be looking at is the whole STP. So they can look at what are the consumer segmentations, what is the target that they are the company is addressing, and how has the company differentiated it. Are there any elements of differentiation or not? So all in all, this is a great opportunity to utilize this particular document, collect the data, but also understand why this data is being collected.
Related to the business.
And related to the business.
Because I find that most students, when they do their internship, they're just focusing on one very small activity.
True.
And sometimes they do not understand the relevance or the context in which what they're doing.
True.
So I think, for example, if you look into selling financial services, they need to understand how does the financial services business operate.
Correct.
For them to be able to market, say, an insurance product or a banking product, etc.
True. So to move that forward, they should know the insurance industry, what are the elements of the insurance industry, what is happening within the industry, and you brought in the earlier point, how is technology or AI going to impact this industry, and then the specific tasks that they are doing and how does it relate to the overall.
So any closing tips here for students so that they can do a round off their summer internship and ultimately they have to come and make a presentation to a panel, so the panel would like to know how good their understanding of the industry is.
Right. So in conclusion, I would say start with the big picture first. Look at the company. Once you understand the company and product, identify the industry that it operates in, analyze the industry using Pestle and Porter's 5 forces. And from there they can look at the segmentation, targeting and positioning, and then the specific tasks that they are doing, how does it all relate. If they are able to do that, they would be able to demonstrate that it is not specific thing that they're talking about, but understanding how actually business actually operates.
Excellent. I think that should be a great starting point for all our students.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.